Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Spiritually Simple. I am Sandra McEllis, your host. And today I have the pleasure of having Debbie Solaris on my show. She and I have been trying to connect now, but she's so busy. She's an ET contactee, she's an Akashic record reader, she's a galactic origin guide, as I would call it. So many more things. So, Debbie, I think my big question for you, and I think some of the viewers are, well, we hear about ET contact. I've heard about the Akash or the Akashic. What the heck is that? What do you mean I have an origin from some other planet? I thought I was just from my parents. So maybe let's start, like maybe in the beginning, how it kind of started for you and how it broadened your perceptions on things outside of this earthly world.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on, and thank you so much for your patience because I know it was kind of hard to, coordinate our schedules there for a while. So I really appreciate you hanging in there with us, because yeah, I am getting busier these days,
And that's
so
a good thing.
it's a good thing. No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm very, very, very grateful.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, I actually didn't start off, being, into the spiritual, metaphysical, realm. It just wasn't my thing at all. I lived had a pretty ordinary upbringing. I was part of a military family, so we traveled a lot when I was growing up, and we spent quite a bit of time in Europe and even a couple of years in Australia. So it was kind of, I kind of got a crash course in international living, but yeah, it was good, but my parents just weren't into. I mean, they were devout Roman Catholics, so they weren't into extraterrestrials or the paranormal or the occult or astrology, any of that kind of stuff, so I went to school, went to college, joined the military. So I'm actually a Navy veteran. I spent 6 years in the U.S. Navy as a hospital corpsman slash preventive medicine technician. Which what that means is I did mostly the environmental stuff. So I wasn't necessarily kind of a nurse's aide working the wards, but I was doing air quality testing on board ships and doing water testing and doing food inspections and in the mess halls, that sort of thing. So I had a really kind of interesting background, mostly science based. I was very very science oriented. But I also had a creative side, which came out later. But after I ended my enlistment, I spent another quite a few years, I would say almost 30 years, working in the environmental health sector. So I worked for public health departments, for quite a few years. I did have a few years working in the IT industry. I took a hiatus and did some work with uh, startup IT companies. So, I have that background as well. So I wasn't really into all of this, I was just trying to live my life, trying to pay, make a living, pay my bills, that kind of thing. So all this started when I started dating my now husband. He was into the paranormal, and he used to like to read magazines about extraterrestrial contact and UFOs and aliens. And I was like, what is my boo reading? It was just like, what in the heck is he reading about? And so I got to reading some of these articles, but never in a million years would I ever say that I would think something like that would happen to me. It was just not in my wheelhouse at all. I was more of a skeptic, like, oh, there's got to be a rational explanation, because I was, had a science background. So it's got to be an, rational explanation, um, so everything was, pretty much status quo until 2012. In 2012, I think personally, I was going through a lot of changes. And also, I would say on a global level, there was a lot of changes going on. There was the talk about the Mayan calendar ending, and people were talking about the age of Aquarius, and so there was a lot of stuff going on, and we had the elections in the United States during that time. So I was just seeing things not, I think going in a really dark direction. I just didn't, just overall didn't think that, you know, the planet was in a good place. And so one night I sent out a prayer to the universe asking for divine assistance for planet Earth, that we really needed help here. This place is struggling, a lot of suffering here. Why is that? And so I included in my prayer, not just, the ascended masters, angels, Mother Mary, Jesus, but also the galactic brothers and sisters. And I don't know why I came up with that. It was just kind of thrown in there at the last minute. And so I sent out that prayer, forgot about it. Went about my normal schedule. And then 2 weeks later, went to sleep as normal. And when I came to, I was having a very odd experience, which I knew wasn't a dream because it was hyper real. So I knew I was in some sort of higher dimensional reality. I think it was more out of body. It wasn't like I was physically there, but my consciousness was there. And as I was looking around, I saw I was in an extraterrestrial starship. And I immediately knew that, hey, this is really different. I don't know where I'm at. But the ship had its own sentience. I mean, the technology was amazing. I mean, it was not like the ships you see on Star Trek or Star Wars, where everything looks really kind of manufactured and metallic. It was like comprised of light. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it was just like light and some sort of plasma-like material, very organic, just kind of shifted and changed as needed. But I knew it was a craft of some sort. And so the ship led me into a space. It was kind of like a conference room, or what they call the orientation room, where it was a big room, and there was extraterrestrial beings that were there waiting for me. And I knew immediately they were extraterrestrial beings. I'd never seen beings like this before. When I was reading the articles that my husband was reading, they were all gray aliens. They were grays. It's just like, okay, I guess that's what ETs look like. I think sometimes there was talk about tall whites. I didn't
Mhm.
quite know what that was, but that was mostly what these, disclosure or, conspiracy theory articles would talk about. But I've never seen beings like what I saw on the ship. I mean, they were beautiful. They didn't look like us. I mean, they had larger heads, slightly larger eyes, but they didn't look like gray aliens. They had kind of a bluish skin tone, massive auras. I mean, their auras were so bright that I couldn't even see them directly. I had to kind of, look at them through my periphery to glance at them. Amazing beings, beautiful energy. I mean, I didn't, people ask me all the time, were you scared? And I said, no, because they were just emitting all this love. I mean, it was just like love and acceptance. And you can't be scared when you're, bathing in that kind of energy. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about my experience because I know you have a lot more questions, but the beings basically communicated with me via telepathy. And I asked them, obviously, where am I? What is this? Who are you? And they told me they were Arcturians from the star system of Arcturus and the Bodas constellation. They told me the reason why I was there was because I was actually one of them. I was having a human experience, that I was a soul that originated from their soul group, from their family, and their system. but I had forgotten my mission. And so once they heard my prayer that I sent out 2 weeks before, they felt it was time for me to understand, why I was, why I decided to go to Earth. And all this was shocking to me. I mean, I never heard this before. And so, um, and then they showed me around the ship, and I got to interact with other extraterrestrial beings. This ship was city-sized. It was huge. There was hundreds of extraterrestrial beings on board the ship, and the Arturians also answered a lot of my questions about what's happening on planet Earth. Why are things so messed up here? And the word that they said over and over again was illusion, that everything in the 3D is an illusion. It's not real. It's just kind of like a simulated reality, which I didn't understand at the time. But then I came to and came back, so so it felt like I was there for a long time. But when I came back to consciousness, I was back in my bed, so I was back because this happened during dream time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I knew at that point that something extraordinary just happened, and I was never going to be the same, that it was going to be that things have dramatically changed. Of course, the first person, I told about this experience was my husband. And he didn't believe me. He thought I was having some crazy dream. So now he believes me, but at the time he didn't believe me. And I didn't tell a lot of people. I was kind of like, well, I think people are gonna just think I'm crazy. They're gonna think I lost it. So I kept it very close. I maybe told a couple of my spiritual teachers, and I told a couple of friends. I didn't even tell my family because, they weren't into this kind of thing. So I spent the next 2 years just trying to figure out what happened to me. I was trying to process, and I went through a period of depression. So it's kind of like an NDE when you're in these higher realms and then you come back to the 3D. It's so jarring to your frequency that it's almost like you go through this massive down, where you just feel depressed because you're back in the 3D. So I was dealing with depression for a while, trying to figure out, what the heck happened and what was the significance of it all. And then just trying to understand, the bigger picture of things. So I started taking a lot of spiritual classes, read a lot of books. A lot of them are in my library here, tons of books. Was doing my own research, just trying to figure out what was the meaning of all of this. And eventually, 2 years later, here in my hometown of Castle Rock, Colorado, I started taking some Reiki courses and was talking about some of my experiences with my Reiki teacher, who also taught Akashic Records reading. And she told me that she thought I was getting information from the Akashic Records and I should take her course. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So that's how I got into doing the Akashic Records, was through this course, because then I discovered that I was really good at it, and so I just started off doing this as a hobby. I was still working my 3D job. Had, like a long-standing government job that, I was trying to retire from. And, I was there for like 17 years. And so at the time, I wasn't really thinking about, doing this as a living. I was just thinking, okay, it's a cute way to make some money. People seem to be into having, their records read, so I started off just as a hobby, but people started getting to know me. And I was also asked during this time to talk about my experiences in the Denver spiritual community, so then I was invited to do presentations on extraterrestrials and galactic history. And so through that, people started getting to know me, so it was very organic. And then eventually in 2019, 2020, I was invited to get interviewed on the Beyond Belief show on Gaia TV. And that's when things kind of blew up from there, so
Hmm.
that's kind of my story in a nutshell. But it kind of all happened organically. It wasn't like I really intended on doing this, from the beginning. It was just kind of like, I had this extraordinary experience, and it, changed my whole, trajectory, I guess, or, trajectory is the word I'm trying to find, but
Hmm.
trajectory, and I feel honored, I feel honored to be a part of this journey. I feel honored to be here, actually. So thank you for asking that question.
Absolutely. And I was getting messages while you were talking, and it was like when you were saying you went up on the ship and doing different things, it was getting the message of like more and more people have gone up on the ships because we
Mhm.
have to steer Earth in a different direction. It's
Totally,
it's time
totally.
to, it's gone in one direction. We've got to counterbalance it. So it's getting okay, more people, and as we know, more people are talking about their their experiences of going up on a ship, whether they physically have done it in daylight or they're doing it in dream state. The
Hmm.
other thing I was getting when you were talking about being in those higher realms and then coming back down into your physical 3D flesh and bones, and then having to deal with the frequency here, the depression that set in, I was getting the message. It's almost like that depression was like an incubator time. It was like
Hmm.
time to just sort of um, be in a cocoon, quietly allowing things to sort of marinate and congeal and morph in a quieter space. Because if you had come down and had been all like, ah, then it may have been too much of like a taser
Oh, yeah,
effect
it would have
on
been too
everybody else, and
jarring.
then you would have fried out. So I was
Yeah,
getting those messages. So I think really anyone that's having those experiences that's coming back into this 3D body is like, no, 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 I want to be over there. I don't want to be here. Well, we're living this life. This is our vehicle to get us around, right? So we
totally.
need to allow those ups and downs. It's not like you're clinically depressed. It's just a time that's expressed as a depression. So you're in sort of in a low mo gear. So I think
Yeah,
that was protecting you. And
I would
then
100% agree with that.
thank
Totally.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what the messages were coming through. And so then I would assume that you just kept going back and getting more information. And that's how you got into being able to give a little bit of galactic history.
Hmm.
And then, of course, we all know anytime we get into energy work or we want something and we go into that direction energetically, taking action, then more and more presents for us and opens up, and we blossom. Our cells blossom like flowers, with
Yeah.
more information that we came in with because we've been so stifled. So would you say that it kept unfolding and unfolding for you?
Oh, 100%, I would say yes. So after my experience, I had two of them actually, one in May 2012 and the second one in December. Even after the first one, I started noticing that my extrasensory perception just completely expanded. Like I didn't have any abilities, before, and then all of a sudden I was seeing things, like a lot of downloads of galactic information, galactic history, information about astronomy, which I've never taken astronomy classes, but all of a sudden I knew all these star systems and knew which races were associated with them, what was their history, what was their culture. And like I said, I thought I was going crazy for a while. So I was like, where am I getting this information? I never even read this stuff, And then, so that's why I was doing all the research. And then also, I was starting to see UFOs all the time. Like, I mean, there was a period where I was seeing UFOs a lot, and I've never seen a UFO before, that happened. And I was able to telepathically communicate with these UFOs, which was really pretty amazing. And just having interdimensional travels and seeing auras, even telepathically picking up on people's thoughts. That was happening for a while. It was crazy. And so yeah, you are going to have, it's like you're straddling two dimensions. Like you're moving into this whole different reality, but you're still kind of anchored to the 3D, so for a few years, even after I had my experience, it felt like I was living two different lifetimes. It was like I was living, my normal 3D, career, my job, just trying to navigate that world. But at the same time, I was expanding into the spiritual, which created, I think, sometimes, some conflict, within myself, because I dealt with quite a few illnesses after I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. And that was kind of a turning point for me. It was like, am I really committed to doing the spiritual work? So my guides were kind of guiding me like, hey, you keep saying you don't want to be here. Are you really committed to this work? And then I managed to cure myself of cancer using alternative methods, so I did not do the allopathic I did ultimately have to have a mastectomy on my left breast, but everything else I did was holistic and alternative. And so I was able to get myself into remission in 10 months, and I've been in remission now for 8 years, so there was a whole journey after that. So it wasn't like, all sunshine and roses. Oh yeah, now I'm awakened. Now I'm like aligned with my mission. There's a whole self-discovery journey, So I appreciate your question because I think it's important for people to realize that, just because you become awakened or you become, aligned spiritually, it's not like an easy path, and it's not meant to be, it's not supposed to be, we're supposed to grow and evolve, even through the difficult times, through the dark night of the soul, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely. And I think that's what the whole split is. It's you're living in, and you have your foot in two different worlds. And then
Mhm.
how are you going to pivot? How are you going to be adaptable? How are you going to be flexible in that? And then how do you switch gears while you're in it too? And when are you safe to really express yourself in different, realms in which you're living this physical life? But I'm so glad that you were able to dive into healing yourself. So, first off, congratulations to you for that. That's an example to others. And secondly, healing yourself allows you to be here on the earth plane much longer because there's so much more teaching and mentoring you're meant to do. And
Oh,
yes,
absolutely.
many of us go through these physical ailments that are, they're a test of who you are. And you
Hmm.
do have to reach deep and find your strengths. But if you're truly listening to that innate voice, it'll guide you that you're clearing out old and bringing in new. And sometimes it will come in a form of an illness that seems a little more detrimental or time consuming than, say, a common cold or
Hmm.
something that can be fixed by, a daily medication. Um,
Hmm.
it isn't easy living in both of these worlds, but at the same time, we chose it in
Yeah.
many ways. And so it's like, what choice do I have? Do I either, morph and congeal and become because it feels right, although I might lose a lot of friends and things may change and relationships and stuff, or do I just sort of merge and purge and continue on each day and hope that I have the strength to continue? And so thank you for having the strength to continue, because I am sure in 2012 and up till really the last couple of years before social media opened up this pathway for us to express, there was probably felt like you wanted to hide on many occasions, that you questioned yourself and your own sanity. Like,
Oh, totally.
what
Totally.
is
Oh,
going
quite
on?
more than I want to admit, actually.
And
Yes.
thank goodness that you had a partner who was aligned to come in with that to support and anchor as you grew and balanced as well. So I
Yeah, I have
thank
to
you for that.
say he was a catalyst to my awakening, even though, people say I've far surpassed him, as far as my, spiritual development. Uh, but, thank goodness that he was always so open-minded, that he
Mhm.
was totally open to all of this, and he always has been. I think that was part of his journey, maybe, but I'm very grateful to him, because I wouldn't be doing this work, and maybe because not, if it wasn't for him, so, and we're still together. We've been together now, gosh, I think it's almost like 22 years now. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's been, yeah, so we're kind of on this journey together, and it's not always easy, even in, good partnerships, it's, sometimes, there's that clash of, personality, or clash of, our own, personal journeys, but, but we've kind of gone through a lot of ups and downs, and it's been good overall, I have to say. We learned a lot. So there's, hope even in relationships, even in boomer relationships like what we have, so, um,
Yeah.
like a lot of my clients that are older, that are looking for partnership, and it's difficult, sometimes because, I would say, as far as, what Dolores Cannon categorizes as the first wave, there's less awakened first wavers than there are second and third wavers. And so sometimes for us, female star seeds that are, I would say in our 50s and 60s and plus, beyond, it might be difficult to find that partnership, so, because a lot of, older men aren't quite awakened, so, so I feel fortunate that I'm with somebody, that, is on his own journey and is quite awake, so, so there's, things that we have to navigate and make and choices around that, like do I stay with this partner, or do I move on, so I don't mean to digress, but that's
No,
part of,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
we all know when our contracts are up.
yeah,
We all
exactly, yeah,
know when a relationship's up or a job's up, or that we know it, but we try to resist it. And then once it's just no longer available, then you look back and go, what the hell took me so long?
yeah,
And then there's
totally,
ones where you just know that, hey, this isn't up yet, and I'm going to keep doing what I do. But as long as you're listening to that innate voice. So
yeah,
let's talk
totally,
about the Akashic real quick. So
yeah,
some
sure.
people will say the Akash, some people will say the Akashic. I know what my understanding of it is, but would you just give a brief description of what you would encompass Akashic is?
So the Akashic records, at least in my viewpoint, is the energetic records of everything that has happened, will happen, is currently happening on the universe for all sentient beings, so, and we are the ones that are contributing to the Akashic records. So our higher selves are constantly contributing, and it's located in the highest dimensional realms, so, so when people are doing, connecting with the Akashic records, they're actually connecting with a higher dimension, so they're just downloading information from that higher dimension on whatever topic or person or whatever it is that they're trying to get information on. And it's not just limited to Earth. I think for a long time, people thought that the Akashic records was just limited to Earth records. And I'm one that can, I would say wholeheartedly tell everybody that it goes way beyond Earth. It encompasses other star systems, other galaxies, other universes. It's infinite, so it's just, I think just the energetic records. It's like a computer system. It just kind of keeps track. It isn't good, it isn't bad, it's neutral and it's standing, so even dark beings have access to the Akashic records. But I do believe that there's some sort of, karma that's involved in how you use the information you receive, from the records. So if you're using the information for nefarious purposes, there's going to be some karma involved with that. But if you're using it for the highest good, then there's also, positive repercussions that come out of that as well. So I don't know if that, matches your version of what Akashic records are. I see it as kind of like a space where it's like, a lot of crystalline, um, yeah, like a lot of times I joke that I'm there to get my Akashic crystal, so I kind of see it as a crystalline space, not so much like a physical library. That's just my vision of it. But
Mhm,
I think a lot of people have different visions of what, the Akashic records are for them, so yes, it does go way, way, way beyond Earth records. I think that's pretty well established by now,
mhm,
but it's fascinating because you can get information on anything. I mean, and you can learn a lot. Like every time I do a reading for a client, which I still do regular Akashic readings,
mhm,
I I see new things all the time. So I'm constantly learning. Just alongside my clients. And sometimes I discover new civilizations, new star systems, new star races. They're like, "Oh, okay, I've never seen this before, let me check into it." And it's just such rewarding work because there's always something new and expanded and different, in the Akashic records, so I feel like it was almost like destiny for me to align with doing this kind of work because of my Arcturian starseed heritage.
mhm,
Arcturian beings are they're the keepers of the Akashic records, first of all, and then also they are the beings that process souls in between death and their next incarnations. So it would make sense that Arcturians would have, I would say, first access to this information. But yeah, it's very rewarding work, and I and I'm of the belief that we all can access this information. So it's not like I have a special password to get in. It's
mhm.
all of us. So
Well, when someone comes into session, they're giving you permission. It's almost like you're floating up with this permission key to access their own personal PO box.
yeah, exactly.
And in that
Exactly.
PO box, it's not a little, 2 by 2 with some
Hmm.
mail in it. It opens up to this vast amount of information and energy that is consistent with multiple contingency plans. And so it's like a tool for you to use that can help you in your now and some of
Hmm.
your decisions moving forward, just like meditation does, just like astrology can, just like so many other modalities can. Just like maybe going and get a massage and body work, you come down into your body and then you can access more information.
Oh,
So coming to
totally.
someone like you is like going up and opening that PO box and saying, okay, then you ask your questions. um, I assume that some that come to you more often than less are asking you more in-depth questions, because I think most people come with the questions like, am I going to move? What's my next job? When's my boyfriend, girlfriend coming? Blah, 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 blah. All the, you know, what I would call the lower realm questions.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
assume that they develop into to more of, higher caliber questions with integrity, of more aligned with their soul, I guess is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, I would say at least 90 to 95% of my clients are, I think, desiring to have an Akashic reading because they're on their own spiritual journey and they're trying to align with who they truly are as a soul, and also what their soul mission is and what their gifts are. So a lot of the questions I get are higher level, but the Akashic records can also help people with some of those lower level questions. Like what my financial system, what my financial reality is going to be, or when am I going to meet my soulmate. I mean, I help a lot of people. Or what is my soul contracts with my family, my earth family, so we can answer those questions as well. But I would say the people that do come to me for readings are those that are, I would say, on the intermediate to advanced level, spiritual path, rather than the newbies. I don't get a lot of the newbies because they're not quite there yet, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense, but
It makes
that's,
total sense because spirit
yeah,
will bring you what you're supposed to, where you're supposed to be, and who's
yeah,
supposed to be coming to you. Um,
totally.
Sometimes that beginner step is a little more difficult for me working with people, because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, if you could just get past that first step, there's so much more,
Oh, totally,
but
totally.
everybody's got to start somewhere. But I don't have a
Hmm.
lot of starters. So you're probably the same way. You're getting
Yeah.
more that align with that. They're ready to get to that next level and
Hmm.
expand in their here and their now.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. As a matter of fact, I know when I first appeared on Gaia TV, I mean, we're getting floods of requests from people wanting readings with me. And a lot of them were just, what I call wannabes. They just were curious. They just wanted to have a reading with somebody they saw on Gaia TV. And we kind of weeded them out because, it just, to me, it's not in alignment with what I do. I'm not, you know, here to hold your hand or to, just provide you, just basic answers. This is
mhm,
a very, very deep work that I do with people, um, so I made, I had to set the intention that, the clients that I work with are the ones that are ready for this kind of work. I mean, that you know, they're spiritually aligned with, getting to that next level, as you were saying, so I think that's important for spiritual practitioners to know that they can set intentions with who they want to work with, so they don't have to
mhm.
settle for, somebody that's not really in alignment, with what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that was a hard lesson for us because, I mean, when I first appeared on Gaia TV in 2020, I mean, our calendar, got so overwhelmed that it took my assistant months to sort through and reschedule people because our calendar couldn't deal with the amount of people that was coming on wanting readings, so now we had to create this whole other system because it's even now I have 3,500 people on my waiting list, and it's like, I can't, process, all those requests, and I think, a lot of people that want readings don't understand that, if you get to a certain level and you get to be well known, for your work, it may take longer to get a reading with that person. It might not be yesterday, tomorrow, you're
Mhm.
going to be waiting a while, and it is what it is. I mean, so a lot of times the demand, is, so way overrides, the ability that I have, to do these readings. I was a people pleaser, so I was always trying to do readings for everybody, and I was doing like, I don't know, 25, 30 readings a week, and
Mm.
I got totally burned out. I had to stop doing readings for a year because I just like I just couldn't even fathom, like, oh, I can't sustain this pace, trying to please everybody, trying to,
Yeah.
so I mean the money was good, but it wasn't worth my health, so in my mental well-being, so um but yeah, and so I think there's a certain amount of boundaries that have to be placed as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And self-care, our own
Hmm.
self-care is very critical, going through all the stages of the changes that are going on in
Yeah.
our work and ourselves and the earth and everything else. So we have to be a prime example of that for others. And if people really want to see you, they're going to wait.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. I
going to
mean,
wait and they'll book in advance. I mean, that's what I do with my people. So, you know, I applaud you for being able to say, you know what, I'm not doing this for the money because it's hurting me. And you already
mhm.
went through what could have been a very life-threatening situation and you don't need to repeat that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so it's
totally.
like pump the brakes. The answer is no. I have my
Yeah.
boundaries. Um, so, one of the things I was really curious about is, about a couple years ago when we were all, incarcerated in our homes for periods of time. Um, and many people started YouTube channels and podcasts and talking about this and that. And people started talking about, oh, you're an Octurian, you're a Palladian, you're a Syrian, you're a this, you're a that. And some people would walk around me like they're so proud of what they are, but they had no idea what they really were. And they said, "What are you, Sandy? What are you?" And I go, "I don't know. I don't think I know enough about any of these to say they're my kin. I think I'm a mutt because I am all that is that I am," is how I'm thinking. And I never wanted to characterize myself into like one group.
Yeah, totally.
Are you able to just look at me and say, "Sandy, I'm leaning towards this for you"?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do pick up that you've been in a lot of different star systems, but I do think your origination was Lyra. That's what I'm picking up. So, maybe some feline genetics, um, so and I think you also have an alignment with the Elohim. So you're a little bit maybe beyond your basic star seed where um, you connect with everything because your mission on planet Earth, and this is just things I'm picking up from your auric field, but is to or your mission basically was to guide and share information to all kinds of different star systems. So you had incarnations probably in almost all of them that are in this galaxy, so and that's pretty typical, really. I wouldn't say I kind of get a little weary of people saying, well, I'm this and I'm that, because to me, that's what I call starseed superiority syndrome,
Yes.
so and I think it's good, like initially in the beginning to, maybe explore the Pleiadian aspect of you or the Syrian aspect or whatever it is that you align with. But and actually, in actuality, even myself, even though I categorize myself as Arcturian because that was my origination point, I did have incarnations in a lot of different systems. I pretty much know all of them because I've been there. I've been in those places. So I think you're the same way. And so I would say it's probably more common that we've probably been in a lot of different systems, but maybe there were certain systems that had more of an influence on us, or maybe there were certain systems that we spent more incarnations in, so maybe they had more of a play in our soul development. And so that's how I approach my Akashic readings because it would be overwhelming for me and the client to go through every single freaking our incarnation this person's ever had. It's like I'll be spending hours, and even then, wouldn't be really that fruitful. So a lot of times if a client's coming to me for their first Akashic reading with me, I am focusing in on certain star systems, so it's just to make things a little easier for them, so they are able to integrate those star systems into their current reality, and then, more often than not, clients will come back and, maybe have a second or third reading saying, oh, I'm starting to see this, and what does this mean? And I'm feeling alignment with these other systems. And so we'll explore those, together, so yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I think, it's very common for a lot of us to, and I think it's kind of an earth human tendency to want to put ourselves in boxes. I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get that. Like sometimes like, oh, I want to align with this because it's cool or because, it's this or that. But in actuality, we're all soul shards of source, and we're just having a multitude of different experiences. We're all one. It's not like one of us is better than the other. It's just we're all
Yeah.
having, and that includes dark beings. It includes the dark, or individuals that are choosing to have dark experiences. And a lot of star seeds don't like to hear that, but that's a reality of what we're. That's why we're here in this dualistic kind of, you know, planet right now. So uh,
Yeah, I just know for me, I'm very resistant on getting classified into one group
hmm
or one group of friends. Even growing up, it was like,
hmm
I don't want to be lumped in and known as this group or that group. I want to be known more independently, and then let me visit all of you, be friends with all of you, but don't let me be in one group where one group has judgment. So I think many people are like that, but like you said, it's a human thing to say, this is my fixed unit. This is my
Hmm.
box. This is
Yeah.
where I'm comfortable. But we are at a place, my friends, where it's get the hell out of that box. You're going to
Hmm.
need to peek your head over and you need to climb out of it and see that the world has so much more to offer you than
Hmm.
the life that you think you're living now, which is you think it's all that there is.
Hmm.
And the stages of which it's your parents and your grandparents, it's very different now.
Hmm.
I am a first waiver. I am a baby boomer, and I have very few people that I can really, truly, honestly share my who I am about anything. So sometimes I do more recluse things or
Hmm.
solo things, which I think many people you pointed out are in because it's difficult to find that partnership, in
Hmm.
this age bracket. But I know mine's coming and I'm not really that concerned about it because it's all about self development. And
Totally.
like you
Totally.
said, when you people do these kinds of readings with you, they are learning more about themselves and they are expanding and they're taking themselves in this effervescent way of opening up uh, endless possibilities of
Yeah.
who they thought they were and who they are and where they can go with it.
Oh,
So to me,
exactly.
this is all a huge tool that you offer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a tool. I mean, and my intention, honestly, I almost want to be out of a job of being an Akashic reader, because to me, it's a skill that all of us have, honestly. All of us can access the records, all of us can get our own answers, so I kind of feel like sometimes like, yeah, and I love doing readings, don't get me wrong. I love the work that I do with my clients. I love my clients. I want to help them as much as possible. But we're moving away from that so much, from looking to other people's for answers,
Mm-hmm.
downloading those answers for ourselves and connecting with our higher self, connecting with our higher guidance, connecting with our star families, connecting with our angels or whatever it is that we identify with, and getting those answers for ourselves and learning the psychic abilities, integrating that. We all have psychic abilities. So not just you have it and I have it and we're special, I
Yeah,
hate that, so we're
I
special,
know. It's
you know.
how much time do you want to put into skillet and have become some sort of mastery level of it? You've got to
Yeah.
devote the time to it. And I like what you say, but oh, sometimes I'd like to just remove myself from being a Akashic record reader title. I kind of feel the same way about past life regression. I can't even
Yeah.
use the word. I just say it's a regression. It's just a quiet time. Can you actually come to me with no agenda, no questions, except for to search and surf and know that at the end of the session, you will have all the answers you need to make your today better and have better ideas how to move forward. And that sounds to me like that's kind of what you do too.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, because we're all developing differently.
yeah, totally. And we're all on different paths, so it's not like one path is better than the other. I mean, I think, we all develop, we all awaken, at different times. It's kind of like we leave little breadcrumb, clues for ourselves, throughout the journey. But and like I said, I'm always really happy to help my clients. I feel honored to do people's readings, but at the same time, I'm at that point where, okay, let me teach you how to do this. Um, so you don't have to keep coming to me or anybody else, where you can access your own information and empower yourself,
Mm-hmm.
so that does bring us to my Galactic Akashic reading course. Yearly, we started 2 years ago, because I got so many requests from people. Can you teach us how to access the galactic records? I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. But I think what people don't understand is that when you're developing an 8 week or 6 week long or month long course, it takes a lot of work. It doesn't, and especially if you're creating something that's completely unique, so it took us a while, it took us about, I would say 6 to 8 months to develop the course. And then as of 2023, I think was the first time we offered it. And traditionally we have been offering it in the spring, but this year we're not going to offer it again until probably September. And the reason for that is we're always trying to improve our course, and I want to find a way to get people through the certification process quicker. So we are reformatting it from an 8-week long program to a 6-week program, probably. Just because a lot of people get impatient and they just want to get that certification. So my course, so this year is going to be a little different than was been in the previous 2 years. It'll be all the same content, but just differently formatted, I guess. But yeah, we have a wait list. So, if you're interested in learning what I do, and sounds like this is totally your wheelhouse, do sign up on the Akashic reading course wait list. And we'll keep you informed of, when we're going to offer, the dates and all that, and when you can register. But but yeah, we are constantly trying to improve, so we learned the last couple of years that it's a great course. I put a lot of my love, all my information, as much information, so I don't gatekeep my information. I share everything with everybody. I put it all out there, and but I'm also trying to improve and make things easier for folks, so I think in this year, we're going to offer it later in the year, but we're going to have more practice sessions. We're going to try to work with people more one-on-one, so that, they can get up to speed quicker, so yeah, so if you're interested, join my website, check it out, sign up for the course, and at least, being on the wait list. And so far, we've had, I think, about a little over 600 people who went through the
Wow.
course. Yeah, and have gotten certified and are out there they're either doing Akashic readings, or they're using this information or this, modality to supplement whatever modality that they're currently working with.
Mhm.
So you don't have to take this course, if you don't want to be an Akashic reader, you could take this course if you are a past life regressionist, for instance, and maybe you
Mhm.
want more knowledge about galactic history, or, the galactic realm. Or you can take this course if you're a Reiki, master, and you decide, hey, I'm getting downloads when I'm working on clients. I want to understand what this is. I want to take this Akashic course, so I can integrate that with my Reiki work, but a lot of my students do become Akashic readers. We have a whole directory of them on my website, and they're amazing. But we also have folks that take it for different reasons, and that's fine too. And we are in the process right now of developing an advanced Akashic course, so that we're hoping to offer that early next year, on how to clear and heal in the records, so that'll be the next level, so this level that I'm talking about is how to, do Akashic readings, access to the galactic records, have an understanding of what you're seeing. The next level is going to be, how can you help people process through their old traumas, or their old soul contracts, or stuck energy that keeps popping up, or ancestral programs, shadow work, all that. So we're excited to be offering that to people soon. So thank you for allowing me to share that, because
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I was when you were talking, I was going, okay, 6 weeks. That's kind of like an initial awakening, kind of add a modality. There's no prerequisite except for to be inquisitive and
Mm-hmm.
maybe just want to add something to your toolbox. But it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of nice that it can go on to another expansion of that when you're
Mm-hmm.
ready to take the next course that
Yeah.
you offer. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's level one, level two. It's just like this is the first one you take, and then
Mm-hmm.
if you choose and you want to know a little bit more about this subject matter, then we offer that as well. So I tip my hat off to you, because I know starting a course is not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of format, a lot of patience, a lot of time, and a lot of scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So I know our hour is up, and I like to keep it a little more short and sweet, because life is a spiritual journey, and sometimes we just get caught up in listening to a lot of rambling, and I don't like to ramble, and I don't think Debbie does either. So possibly we'll do round 2 down the road. And I'm going to have all your links in the description. So anyone that
Thank you.
wants to sign up, get on the wait list for the Akashic record reading, because guess what? You may get close to it and find maybe it isn't for you, but you didn't have to wait that long, right?
Yeah,
Or get
totally.
on the list of the course, and then you may find you're even more than ready when that course is available, because I know I'll do it. And in the meantime, anything else you want to close with, Debbie?
In the meantime, if people can't get in to get a reading with me or to take the course, the Akasha course, we do offer, starseed related courses on my training page of my website that you can access now, that are very inexpensive. I mean, I think that the most expensive one is maybe $60, maybe, so this is a great way to, maybe get your feet wet, with this information. And it's all topics, relationships, health. We have one on elementals, even if you like, fairies and, mermaids and things like that. And check that out too. And if you are, open to going to some of these conferences and events, I'm constantly doing online events. Maybe you'll, if you follow me online, I always post these. I was just at the Conscious Life Expo. I'm going to be going to participate in the Ancient Souls Retreat in Hawaii in another couple of weeks. So that's another way that you can connect with my work as well. So thank
Well,
you.
and you have a YouTube channel, and
Mm-hmm.
DebbieSolaris.com is your
Mm-hmm.
website. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to make sure those are all on my links
Mm-hmm.
in the description. So, hey, everybody, keep it spiritually simple. And Debbie, hang on for 1 second. We're just going to say goodbye, and I'm going to stop the recording. So just say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.